What's up, everybody? This is D. Joseph Allen. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, Rational Atheist, how's it going? I like your screen name, by the way. This is a response to Science and Faith, your video, Science and Faith. I found your video pretty interesting, so I wanted to make a quick response and go through some of the things you said, and then at the end ask you a question, which is basically why I made this video, although the other stuff is, I'm interested in that too. Okay, so I'll just dive right in. I have a few notes, I hope you don't mind. I'm not going to use your video or anything. I'm just going to read off the notes and kind of from what I remember that you said in your video. So, okay, first you talk about Augustine and the literal meaning of Genesis, and you quote him saying that something to the effects, I'm going to paraphrase here, that what the unbeliever shows to be true in nature will show that it doesn't contradict the Bible because two truths can't contradict each other, whatever. My question here would be Genesis 30:37 through 42, in which Jacob appears to believe that breeding animals in front of patterns, of certain patterns, spots or stripes or whatever, you can make them have striped offspring. That would be my first question. Now, I've seen some of the responses to this. Really, to me, it's stretching it. I'm sure you probably are gonna come up with some apologetic rebuttal to this, but it's pretty clear to me that the Bible states that this is what could be called a scientific truth, since it relates to genetics. So whatever, let's move on. Now, I like that you state that you believe because you've seen him working in your life. Because not because of the scientific evidence, because basically you're saying what a religious person should say, is that I believe on faith, I don't need evidence. I believe because I've seen God work in my life, like you said. I mean, that's fine, but if we're talking about science and faith, if that's the best evidence from personal experience, if that's the standard, then well, I believe in Zeus because he's worked in my life. And I mean, I know you're going to think it's facetious or I'm strawmanning or something like that, but it's the truth. I can say the same thing and nobody else has any way of proving it. That's why it's called faith. Okay, so next you talk about how the naturalistic method can't detect God. Of course the naturalistic method can't detect God. But you see, the problem is, and I'm sure you've also heard this before, under that criterion anything can be claimed. I mean, once we say that something is outside our physical reality, it's pure speculation, unless somehow we could get evidence, and anything goes. I don't understand how that, doesn't bother you. That bothers me. That really does bother me. It's something that has always bothered me. Now, your next statement was kind of weird. You went from God could be behind the wind and the lightning and whatever, to God is the first cause in the Big Bang or something like that. But then I think you said something very telling, which in my opinion gives your position away at least a little bit, because you admit that the people back then, the people who wrote the Bible, didn't have the scientific knowledge. I mean, you're arguing for science and faith compatibility, yet you admit that the people back then believed and wrote down these beliefs, that God was causing the lightning, when we of course know that. I mean, you can say God is behind the lightning, but there's no need for that. Why? I mean, especially if you're not a young earth creationist and you believe in evolution, you would understand that, of course you can say, well, yeah, there's a naturalistic process for lightning, but God sparks that naturalistic process for lightning or whatever. He moves the clouds around. You can always say that. But the point is not that. The point is we have a perfectly good naturalistic explanation for this, but the people back then didn't, and this is what they believed, and they wrote it down in the Bible. So once again, in a way, a scientific error. Then you talk about how science can comment on morality and this and that, and I agree completely, so I'll just skip over that. Then you also talk about how atheism leads to moral nihilism and this and that. Most of that I don't really agree, but the one that I really don't agree with is a moral nihilism. Although I do think that there is a point in saying that pure atheism, I mean, if you just stripped away religion for everybody and it just, it probably wouldn't be any better. maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't. I think that it's more about education, being educated, being rational. I mean, I think that's a topic for another video. Then you say, lastly, that evolution is not atheistic or theistic. I completely agree with that. It has nothing to say on that. It's just a scientific theory that explains the how. So I have no qualms with that. However, this does bring me to my original question. I also asked this in the comments, and that is, do you believe that Adam and Eve existed as two literal people? And I hope you respond, because if you do, I will expand on that, and I'll talk about that a little bit more, and how I've asked that question before and the answers I've gotten. But if you could answer that for me, that'd be great. So I guess that's it. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks, Irrational Atheist. Later.